My sister posted in the family group chat, "My nephew is why I'm pro-choice." 47 relatives saw it. My son saw it. I replied with a photo, the one from last summer that would ruin her marriage, then wrote, "And this is why I'm pro-life." She called 14 times. I didn't answer. Mom begged, "Delete it." But my son had already screenshotted her message. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and one single message in our family group chat blew my entire world apart. In an instant, my own sister shattered my heart, betrayed my son, and ignited a war that would tear our family to shreds. I was standing in the produce section of Whole Foods, idly comparing organic bell peppers, when my phone vibrated. Our family group chat, a chaotic digital gathering of 47 souls, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my grandparents who barely grasped the concept of a smartphone but insisted on being included. And then there it was, a message from my younger sister, Natalie. It hit me like a punch to the gut. My nephew is why I'm pro-choice. The organic bell pepper I was holding slipped from my numb fingers, thudding back into the bin. Time stopped. Natalie, my sister, my younger sister, the one who always borrowed my clothes and returned them with stains, the one who wept on my shoulder when her first love broke her heart. This was the same Natalie who, just weeks before, had showered my son, Jordan, with elaborate birthday gifts. The aunt who would pose for Christmas photos, her arms slung around his shoulders, both of them beaming like they were the best of friends. Jordan, my son, my beautiful 13-year-old boy. Yes, he had autism. Yes, he had ADHD. And yes, a heart condition meant constant monitoring. But none of that defined him. None of that stopped him from being the kindest, funniest, most extraordinary kid I had ever known. He was a walking encyclopedia of nature documentaries, a collector of vintage comic books, and my personal Sunday morning chef, always making my toast just a little burnt, with just a little too much butter, exactly how he thought I liked it. And in one brutal sentence, my own sister had just told our entire family that his existence was a mistake. That he was a mistake. My phone vibrated once. Then twice. Then it truly exploded. The group chat, that digital melting pot, detonated. "Natalie, what the hell?" typed Cousin Teresa. "That's your nephew you're talking about." Uncle Frank shot back. "This is disgusting," Aunt Bridget declared. But amidst the outrage, other voices chimed in. Natalie's friends, her husband Preston's family, people who had somehow found their way into our intimate family circle over the years. And then, Natalie's chilling follow-up. "I'm just being honest. If I had known what I know now, I would have made a different choice. Some lives are harder than they need to be." I stood frozen in the produce aisle, reading her words again and again, each syllable a fresh wound. The harsh fluorescent lights of Whole Foods suddenly felt blinding, oppressive. A woman bumped her cart into mine, muttering an apology, but I didn't even register her. My mind was reeling. Jordan. He was at school. He had his own phone. He had access to this chat. My parents, bless their hearts, had insisted all the grandkids be included. He would see this. He would read every single venomous word his aunt had written about him. I abandoned my overflowing shopping cart right there in the middle of the aisle and stumbled out to my car. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely grip the steering wheel. When I finally made it home, I just sat in the driveway for 20 agonizing minutes, staring at my phone. The family chat now boasted 127 unread messages. I didn't open a single one. Instead, my thumb moved instinctively to my photo gallery. I scrolled back to last July, and there it was. The image. Still there. I told myself it was an accident when I took it, a fluke. 8 months earlier, we were at Natalie and Preston's beach house in Delaware for the 4th of July weekend. Jordan was happily splashing with his cousins, while the adults sipped wine on the deck. I'd gone inside, needing the bathroom, but I took a wrong turn down a quiet hallway. Through a partially open bedroom door, I saw Natalie. And she wasn't alone. It wasn't Preston. It was Garrett, Preston's business partner. They were standing close. Too close. And then, they weren't standing anymore. My hand had flown up, phone already there, snapping a single photo before my brain even processed what my eyes were seeing. Before I could even think, my fingers had acted. I backed away, silent as a ghost, my heart slamming against my ribs. I deleted the photo immediately, or so I thought. But it had lingered, a digital ghost, in my recently deleted folder. 2 weeks later, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of wine and curiosity, I'd recovered it. And I'd kept it. Insurance, maybe. Or just solid proof that my sister, the queen of charitable foundations and social media posts about kindness and acceptance, wasn't quite the perfect person she meticulously curated herself to be. Still in my car, I opened that photo again. The image was stark. Unmistakable. Natalie's face, clear as day. Garrett's face, undeniable. Their intertwined bodies left absolutely nothing to the imagination. No room for excuses. No room for denial. I took a deep, shuddering breath. My decision, cold and clear. I took a screenshot of Natalie's hateful message about Jordan. Then I opened the family group chat. I uploaded the photo from last July. My caption was a simple, brutal truth. And this is why I'm pro-consequences. I hit send before I could second-guess myself, before a flicker of doubt could enter my mind. Immediately, my phone started screaming. Natalie's name blazed across the screen. I declined. She called again. Declined again. Again. 14 times in 6 minutes, her name flashed, a frantic, desperate plea. The group chat, for a full 30 seconds, went utterly silent. Then, it detonated. My mother's message, in all caps, screamed, "Delete that right now." My father. What is happening? Uncle Frank. Jesus Christ. Cousin Teresa. Natalie. Preston's brother. Is that Garrett? I turned my phone to silent, and I walked inside. The house was eerily silent. Too quiet. Jordan wouldn't be home for another hour. An hour to think. An hour to process. An hour, maybe, to undo the irreversible thing I'd just done. But I didn't. Instead, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, watching my phone screen flicker with an endless stream of calls and messages. By the way, if you're finding yourself hooked on this mess of a family drama, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the stories just get wilder from here. 37 minutes later, my mother burst through the front door, using her emergency key. She didn't knock. She didn't even pause. "Are you insane?" she shrieked, not even seeing me yet. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I slowly looked up from my coffee. About the same thing Natalie did, I imagine. My mother gasped, her sentence dying on her lips. Her face was turning that familiar blotchy red, the way it did when she was trying desperately not to cry. "You've destroyed her marriage. Her reputation. Preston's family is already calling. His mother is hysterical." My voice came out softer than I intended, almost a whisper, but laced with iron. "And what about my son? What about Jordan's reputation? His feelings?" 47 people saw her call his existence a mistake. "She didn't mean it like that," my mother insisted. "Then how did she mean it, Mom?" I stood up, my chair screeching against the floor, the sound echoing in the tense silence. "Explain to me, precisely, the correct way to interpret my nephew is why I'm pro-choice." My mother's mouth opened, then slowly closed. She looked older suddenly, exhausted in a way I'd never truly noticed before. She was upset. She finally managed. She told me yesterday that Jordan had an outburst at her house last weekend, broke one of her decorative plates. She was venting. "So," I said, my voice low and dangerous, "she vented to 47 relatives about how my disabled son shouldn't exist?" "Don't put words in her mouth," she snapped. "I'm reading her actual words, Mom," I countered, the ones she typed and sent to our entire family. We stood there in my kitchen, the afternoon sun slicing through the windows, and for the first time in my life, my own mother looked at me like I was a stranger. "You need to delete that photo," she said, her voice strained.
No.
"Think about Jordan. When he sees what you've done, he already saw what Natalie did." I picked up my phone, unlocked it, and showed her the screen. "He texted me 20 minutes ago. He screenshotted her message before I posted anything. He asked me why Aunt Natalie hates him." My mother's face went utterly, terrifyingly pale. "He's 13 years old," I continued, my voice steady despite the tremor in my soul. "And he had to read his aunt's opinion about whether he deserves to exist."
So no, Mom.
"I am not deleting anything. Natalie made a choice to humiliate my son publicly. I made a choice to respond with the truth about who she really is." "This isn't about truth," my mother whispered, her eyes pleading. "This is about revenge." I met her gaze, unflinching. "You're absolutely right. It is." My mother left without another word. She didn't slam the door, which somehow felt infinitely worse. At 3:45 p.m., I heard the familiar jingle of Jordan's key in the lock, the thud of his backpack hitting the floor, his ritual, shoes off, jacket on the hook, straight to the kitchen for snacks. But today was different. He appeared in the doorway, and my heart sank. His eyes were red-rimmed, his face blotchy. He'd been crying. "Hey, Bug," I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears of my own. He didn't answer. He just walked over and wrapped his arms around me, burying his face into my shoulder. He was nearly as tall as me now, growing so fast I could barely keep track. But in that moment, he felt utterly, heartbreakingly small. "I don't understand," he mumbled, his voice muffled against my shirt. "I thought she loved me." I held him tighter, pulling him into me as if I could absorb his pain. "I know, baby. I know. She bought me that signed comic for my birthday," he continued, his voice cracking. "We watched all those documentaries together. She said I was her favorite nephew." You are your father's family's favorite nephew, baby. Your Aunt Bridget's favorite. Cousin Teresa texts me constantly asking when you can visit. But Aunt Natalie made a terrible choice. One she doesn't get to take back. He pulled away, wiping his face with his sleeve. Everyone's talking about it. My cousin showed me the group chat. All those messages. I'm so sorry you had to see that, honey. Then he looked at me, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name in his red eyes. Not judgment, not anger. More like a quiet, intense curiosity. Did you really post a photo of her? Maybe I did, I admitted. Why? I could have lied. Could have spun a tale about protective instinct or temporary insanity. Anything to keep myself on some moral high ground. But Jordan deserved the truth. He deserved my truth. Because I was angry, Bug. Because she hurt you, and I wanted to hurt her back. He considered this, his young face, serious. That profound perceptiveness, which always reminded me he was far more observant than most gave him credit for, settled over him. Okay, he finally said a simple, firm declaration. Okay, she was mean to me first. You were mean to her second. That seems fair. I almost laughed. The simple, undeniable logic of a 13-year-old cutting through an impossibly tangled situation. It's not really about fair, I started. But he cut me off. It is what she deserved. She told everyone I shouldn't exist. You told everyone she's a liar. She's worse. Before I could formulate a response, my phone rang. Not Natalie this time. Preston. I answered on speaker, so Jordan could hear. You've destroyed everything. Preston's voice was raw, barely controlled. My parents are demanding I file for divorce. My business partner, Garrett, just resigned. Natalie won't stop crying. Our kids are asking questions we can't answer. Are you happy now? Are you calling to apologize for what your wife said about my son? Silence. That's what I thought. I said what she said was wrong. Preston finally managed. I told her that. But what you did, sharing that photo, it's cruel. It's vindictive. It's proportional. A small, steady voice interjected. Jordan. He had moved closer to the phone, his jaw set. She said I shouldn't be alive. Mom showed everyone she's a cheater. Which one is worse, Uncle Preston? More silence. Then Jordan, buddy, she didn't mean. Yeah, she did. Jordan's voice didn't waver. And now everyone knows what she really thinks and what she really does. Mom just made it fair. Preston hung up. Over the next 3 days, my phone became a constant stream of chaos. Family members took sides, drawing invisible lines in the sand. Some called me a hero, a righteous avenger. Others branded me a monster, a vindictive witch. Aunt Bridget, bless her heart, started a separate group chat without Natalie, only to be immediately criticized for being divisive. Cousin Teresa posted a long, rambling Facebook essay about family loyalty that somehow managed to offend absolutely everyone. Natalie's friends attacked me on social media, accusing me of being a bitter older sister, jealous of her success, exploiting my son's disability for sympathy. But then, quiet messages started trickling in. From Jordan's friends' parents. From other parents of kids with disabilities who had faced similar comments, similar attitudes, similar casual cruelties. A whole network of people who understood, profoundly, exactly why I had done what I did. On the 4th day, Natalie showed up at my house. No warning. No call ahead. Just her car in my driveway at 7 a.m., her silhouette visible through the frosted glass of my front door. I almost didn't answer. But then I thought about Jordan, still asleep upstairs, and how he'd asked me the night before if his aunt would ever apologize. I opened the door. Natalie looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. Clothes that looked slept in. The polished, perfect version of my sister had completely vanished. Can we talk? She asked, her voice hoarse. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me, sealing off the peace of my home. We stood on my front porch in the early morning cold, our breath visible in the air. I'm leaving Preston, she said, her eyes vacant. The divorce papers are already being drawn up. His family won't speak to me. Garrett's wife served him papers yesterday. My charitable foundation asked me to step down from the board. I've lost everything. I waited. You did. This, she continued, her voice rising. You destroyed my entire life over one comment. One comment about my child. I countered, my voice flat. I was angry. Jordan had broken something expensive and I was venting, and yes, I said something horrible, but I didn't mean you meant it. I kept my voice level, but the words were sharp. Maybe you regret it now, but in that moment, you absolutely meant it. You think raising Jordan is too hard. You think his life is less valuable. You think I made the wrong choice. Her face crumpled. He's difficult. You can't deny that. The meltdowns, the special accommodations, the constant doctor appointments. Your whole life revolves around managing his conditions. My whole life revolves around loving my son, I stated, clear and unwavering. And what about you? What about your career, your relationships, your freedom? You gave up everything. I gave up nothing that mattered. The words came out hard, sharp. Jordan didn't ruin my life. He is my life. And if you can't understand that, then losing you is no loss at all. Natalie's tears started then, real and messy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll apologize to Jordan. I'll post a public apology. I'll do whatever you want. Just please delete that photo. Please help me fix this. Please. No, I said, looking her directly in the eyes. You made a choice to humiliate a 13-year-old boy in front of his entire family. Those consequences are yours to live with. But you made a choice too, she cried. You chose to expose my affair, to ruin my marriage. I chose to respond to cruelty with truth. I replied, the chill in my voice matching the morning air. If the truth destroyed your marriage, maybe your marriage deserved to be destroyed. She stared at me, mascara-stained tears tracking down her face. We're sisters. We were, I said softly, and turned, walking back inside. I locked the door. Through the frosted glass, I watched her silhouette stand there for 5 more minutes, a broken statue, before she finally walked back to her car. Jordan came downstairs an hour later, already dressed for school. Was that Aunt Natalie's car I heard? Yes. Did she apologize? She did. To you, or to me? To me. About the consequences she's facing? He poured himself cereal, his movements careful and methodical. So, not a real apology. No, Bug. Not a real one. Good. I don't want to talk to her anyway. The family fractures deepened over the following weeks. Thanksgiving was canceled. The Christmas plans dissolved into competing gatherings. Team Natalie versus Team Me, as Cousin Teresa sarcastically dubbed it. My mother stopped speaking to me entirely. My father sent occasional texts, brief and neutral, carefully avoiding taking any position. But Jordan seemed lighter. He printed out screenshots of supportive messages from relatives and pinned them to his bulletin board. Aunt Bridget's message, you're perfect exactly as you are. Uncle Frank's, your mom's a warrior and you're lucky to have her. Cousin Teresa's, anyone who doesn't see how awesome you are is blind. Look at all these people who love me, he said one night, pointing to his bulletin board. I didn't know there were so many. There were always this many, I told him. We just couldn't see them before. He considered this. So, Aunt Natalie being mean actually helped. In a weird way, I admitted, maybe it did. Preston's parents arrived at my house on a Saturday morning, 2 weeks after the explosion. I was pulling weeds in the front garden when their sleek Mercedes pulled up to the curb. Jordan was inside, playing video games, blissfully unaware of the impending visit. Martha and Donald Preston. I'd met them maybe a dozen times over the years, at holiday gatherings and milestone celebrations. They'd always been cordial but distant, the kind of wealthy retirees who measure people by zip codes and college degrees. Martha approached first, her designer handbag clutched like a shield. We need to discuss this situation. I stood up, brushing dirt from my jeans. What situation would that be? Don't be coy. Donald's voice carried the clipped authority of someone accustomed to boardrooms and deference. You've humiliated our family. Our son is a wreck. Our grandchildren are confused and traumatized. This vendetta of yours needs to end. Vendetta implies I started something. I corrected, my voice calm. I simply responded, by destroying a marriage. Martha's voice cracked. By exposing private matters to the entire world. Your daughter-in-law exposed my son to public ridicule first, I said, my voice rising a fraction. She told 47 people that his existence was a mistake. She was frustrated, Donald said, waving a dismissive hand. Parents get frustrated. It doesn't justify what you did. Actually, it does. I cross my arms. See, frustration is normal. Venting is normal. But Natalie didn't vent to a friend or a therapist. She chose a public forum with our entire family present, including the child she was talking about. That's not frustration. That's cruelty. Martha dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She's lost everything. Her marriage, her reputation, her position at the foundation. Isn't that enough? I didn't make her cheat on your son. I didn't make her write that message about Jordan. I just stopped letting her pretend to be someone she's not. We came here to ask you to remove that photo, Donald said, his eyes narrowed. Preston is willing to work through the affair if you'll just give them a chance to repair things privately. The sheer audacity stunned me into silence for a moment. Preston wants to reconcile with someone who thinks disabled children shouldn't exist? She doesn't think that, Donald insisted. Those were her exact words. My nephew is why I'm pro-choice. There's no other interpretation. Martha stepped closer, her voice dropping conspiratorially. We're prepared to offer compensation. Name your price. Remove the photo. Issue a public apology, and we'll make it worth your while. A laugh burst out of me before I could stop it. You're trying to bribe me? We're trying to salvage what's left of our family, Donald said coldly. Something you clearly don't value. My family is inside that house, I said, gesturing toward my front door. Probably building something elaborate out of Legos right now. Your family, the one you're trying to save, includes a woman who told my 13-year-old son that he's a mistake. We're not the same. They left without another word. Through the front window, I saw Jordan watching, his face pressed against the glass. When I came inside, he had questions. What did they want? To fix things for Natalie? Did they ask about me? About what she said? The hope in his voice broke something inside me. No, Bug. They didn't. His expression shuttered closed. Oh. But that tells you everything you need to know about them, doesn't it? He nodded slowly. They care more about her reputation than my feelings. Exactly. Then I'm glad you didn't help them. The school called 3 days later. Jordan had been in a fight. Not physical, the vice principal clarified quickly, but a verbal altercation in the cafeteria that had resulted in another student crying and Jordan receiving detention. I arrived to find him sitting in the main office, arms crossed, jaw set in stubborn defiance. What happened? I asked once we were in the car. Tyler said his mom told him I was the reason our family was fighting, that I broke everything because I can't act normal. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Tyler, Natalie's oldest son, my nephew. What did you say back? I told him his mom was a cheater and a liar, and that's why their parents are getting divorced, not because of me. Jordan, it's true. She did cheat. You proved it. I know it's true, but Tyler didn't know. And hearing it that way at school in front of his friends. So, I'm supposed to let him blame me? His voice rose. Let everyone think I'm the problem? We sat in the school parking lot, engine idling, while Jordan's breathing slowly returned to normal. The anger was new. He'd always been such a gentle kid, quick to forgive, slow to hold grudges. But something had shifted in him since Natalie's message. Something hardened. You're not the problem, I said quietly. But Tyler isn't either. He's just a kid whose world is falling apart, and he's trying to make sense of it by blaming you, by repeating what he's heard at home, which isn't his fault. Jordan stared out the window for a long time. I don't want to forgive any of them. You don't have to. Good. That night, I received an email from Natalie's lawyer. A cease and desist letter demanding I remove the photo from the family group chat and refrain from further harassment of his client. The language was formal, threatening, full of words like defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, a woman named Patricia who specialized in family law. She called me within an hour. This is garbage, Patricia said bluntly. Everything you posted was true. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And you posted it once in response to her public statement about your son. That's not harassment. So, I don't have to do anything? Correct. In fact, I'd recommend you document everything. Screenshot her original message, save all the responses, keep a record of every interaction. If she tries to escalate this legally, we'll bury her. The vindication felt good, but it also felt hollow. I'd won a battle. Maybe even the war, but the cost was a family that would never speak to each other the same way again. Jordan's therapist called it complex grief, mourning the loss of relationships that were still technically alive, but fundamentally changed. We sat in Dr. Morrison's office twice a week, working through Jordan's feelings about his aunt, his cousins, the shifting dynamics of family loyalty. Do you wish your mom hadn't posted the photo? Dr. Morrison asked during one session. Jordan thought about it. Sometimes, when I think about Tyler crying or when I see how sad my grandma looks, but then I remember what Aunt Natalie said about me, and I'm glad again. Can both things be true? Can you be glad she faced consequences and also sad about the fallout? I guess so. It feels weird though. Most complex emotions do. After the session, Jordan asked if we could get ice cream. We sat outside the shop despite the cold, watching people walk by, saying nothing. Sometimes silence was better than trying to fix things with words. My mother finally broke her silence 6 weeks after the incident. She showed up at my door on a Tuesday evening looking exhausted. Can we talk? She asked. We sat in the living room. Jordan was at a friend's house for dinner, giving us privacy neither of us had asked for. I don't know how to fix this, my mother said, her voice small. You're my daughter. Natalie's my daughter. Jordan's my grandson. I love all of you. But I keep thinking about what she said. Really thinking about it. She looked at her hands, twisting them. When Jordan was diagnosed, I was scared. Terrified, actually. I didn't know anything about autism or ADHD, and the heart condition on top of everything else felt like too much. I wondered if you'd be okay, if he'd be okay, if any of this was fair. Mom, let me finish. I had those thoughts, private, shameful thoughts that I never said out loud. And then I watched you raise him, watched him grow into this incredible kid, and those fears just dissolved. He's not a burden. He's not a tragedy. He's Jordan. So, why are you telling me this? Because I think Natalie got stuck where I started. She saw the challenges and never moved past them to see the child. And when she said what she said, she gave voice to the worst possible version of those fears. My mother's eyes filled with tears. I'm not defending her. What she said was unforgivable, but I understand where it came from, and that makes it harder to completely hate her. I don't hate her, I said. I just can't have her in our lives anymore. I know, she whispered, and I'm not asking you to change that. I just needed you to know that I see you. I see what you did, and why you did it, and I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. We didn't hug. The gap between us felt too wide for physical gestures. But something shifted. A small movement toward understanding, if not reconciliation. The months continued to pass. Family events became carefully choreographed affairs where guest lists were scrutinized and dates were chosen to avoid overlap. Natalie attended my father's birthday dinner while Jordan and I went to a movie. I brought Jordan to Easter brunch while Natalie stayed home. We existed in separate orbits. Our paths carefully managed to never intersect. Cousin Teresa tried to mediate once. She invited both of us to her house under false pretenses, then locked the doors and announced we weren't leaving until we talked things through. This is insane, Natalie said, pacing Teresa's living room like a caged animal. You can't force reconciliation. I can make you sit in the same room. Teresa countered, unflustered. The rest is up to you. I sat on the couch, watching Natalie wear a path in the carpet. She looked better than she had months ago. Hairstyled, makeup applied, clothes that suggested she'd started caring about appearances again. I have nothing to say to her, Natalie finally announced. Perfect. Then listen. Teresa turned to me. Tell her how you felt when you read that message. No. Come on. No. Teresa. This isn't a TV show where people have big emotional breakthroughs and everything gets tied up neatly. Natalie said something unforgivable about my son. I responded by exposing her affair. Those are the facts. There's no magical conversation that undoes any of it. But your family. We're family. I corrected. Now we're just people who share DNA and a very messy history. Natalie stopped pacing, spinning to face me. You destroyed my entire life. Don't I get to be angry about that? Be as angry as you want. It doesn't change anything. I lost everything. My marriage, my career, my standing in this family. You took it all. I didn't take anything. I replied, my voice steady. I revealed what was already there. You cheated on Preston. You said horrible things about Jordan. Those were your choices, not mine. One photo, she said, her voice trembling. One mistake, and you made sure everyone knew about it forever. One message, I shot back, meeting her gaze. One cruel, calculated message about a child, and you expected what? Silence? Forgiveness? Me thanking you for your honesty? Teresa held up her hands. Okay, this isn't working. No kidding, Natalie snapped. She grabbed her purse. Unlock the door, Teresa. The door unlocked with a click. Natalie left without looking back. I stayed on the couch, feeling nothing in particular. No satisfaction, no regret, just a dull acceptance that some things couldn't be fixed. Teresa sat down beside me, defeated. I really thought if you two just talked. Some conversations don't have happy endings. But you were so close growing up. Remember when she helped you study for your college exams? When you drove 8 hours to be there when she had her first baby? I remember all of it. That's what makes this worse, not better. The memories were there, vivid and painful. Natalie braiding my hair before my first date. Me holding her hand in the hospital when Sophie was born. Years of sisterhood that felt genuine and real. But none of those moments changed what she'd said about Jordan. None of them erased the cruelty. Work became my escape. I'd taken a position as a project manager at a software company 2 years earlier, and now I threw myself into deadlines and deliverables with focused intensity. My colleague Rebecca noticed. You're here before everyone and leave after everyone, she commented one Thursday evening. Everything okay? Just busy or avoiding going home? I looked up from my laptop. Rebecca had worked in the cubicle next to mine for 18 months. We'd shared countless lunches, complained about management decisions, celebrated project completions with mediocre office cake, but we'd never discussed anything truly personal. Family stuff, I said vaguely. The sister thing. She must have seen my expression because she quickly added, sorry, I saw some posts online. People in town talk. Of course they do. Rebecca pulled up a chair. My brother hasn't spoken to me in 4 years. He thinks I ruined his wedding by bringing my girlfriend as my plus one. Our parents still try to fix it. Keep suggesting family therapy or mediated conversations. Some people don't understand that broken can be permanent. Exactly. The relief of being understood flooded through me. Everyone wants reconciliation like it's a moral obligation. Forgiveness is optional, Rebecca added, her voice quiet but firm, especially when someone attacks your kid. We sat there in the empty office, the cleaning crew vacuuming in distant hallways, and I felt less alone than I had in months. Jordan's school hosted a parent-teacher conference in October. His teachers praised his work ethic, his creativity, his kindness toward other students. His science teacher pulled me aside specifically. "Jordan's exceptional," Mr. Brennan said, his eyes bright. "He sees connections other students miss." Yesterday, he explained cloud formation using a video game analogy that made the entire class understand instantly. He's always been good at finding patterns. He mentioned he wants to study marine biology. With his grades and his passion, he could get into excellent programs. Pride swelled in my chest. This was the child Natalie thought shouldn't exist. This brilliant, creative, ambitious kid who wanted to save the oceans. On the drive home, Jordan asked, "Did Mr. Brennan tell you about the college thing? He did marine biology at a university that actually has oceanfront research facilities. Is that okay?" "I know it's expensive." "Bug," I said, reaching over to squeeze his knee. "If you want to study fish in the Pacific Ocean while getting a doctorate, we'll figure it out. You're going to do amazing things." He smiled, that crooked grin that still lit up my world. "Aunt Natalie said I'd never go to college. Last year, before everything happened, she said kids like me usually end up in group homes or on disability." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "She said that to you?" "Not directly. I overheard her talking to Mom at Christmas. She said you were in denial about my limitations." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew it would make you sad. And I thought maybe she was right. But then I started doing better in school, and Mr. Brennan said I was exceptional, and I realized she doesn't know anything about me." "She doesn't," I confirmed, my voice sharp with a fresh wave of anger. "And she never will, because she never bothered to actually look." It wasn't just about the group chat message anymore. It was about years of subtle dismissals, lowered expectations, comments disguised as concern. Natalie had been undermining Jordan long before that Tuesday in the grocery store. Thanksgiving arrived with its usual complicated logistics. My father hosted, attempting a neutral gathering that somehow satisfied no one. Natalie declined to attend. Her kids went to Preston's parents' house. Jordan and I showed up with pumpkin pie and 4 smiles. "Where's Aunt Natalie?" my younger cousin asked innocently. "She had other plans," my mother said quickly. "Because of the fight." "Eat your turkey, sweetie." The meal was awkward. Conversation stilted and carefully neutral. People avoided mentioning Natalie's name like it was cursed. Jordan sat beside me, pushing food around his plate, clearly uncomfortable. In the car afterward, he said, "That was terrible." "Yeah, it was." "Next year, can we just have Thanksgiving alone? Maybe invite Aunt Bridget and Cousin Teresa." Absolutely. The idea of building our own traditions, separate from the fractured family dynamics, felt like permission to breathe. We didn't need forced gatherings and uncomfortable silences. We could create something better. Jordan started high school that fall. New building, new teachers, new social dynamics to navigate. He joined the environmental club and started volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends. Life moved forward in the way it always does, indifferent to family drama and broken relationships. 9 months after the incident, I received a letter in the mail. Real paper, real envelope, handwritten address. The return address was Natalie's. Inside was a single page. "I understand now that you'll never forgive me. I understand that what I said was unforgivable. I don't expect reconciliation. I just wanted you to know that I've started therapy. I'm working on understanding why I said what I said, why I felt what I felt. The therapist says I was projecting my own fears about inadequacy and control. That doesn't excuse anything. It just explains it. I hope Jordan is well. I hope he knows that my words were about my failures, not his worth. He deserves better than what I gave him. You both do." No signature, just those words. I showed Jordan the letter. He read it twice, his brow furrowed in thought, then handed it back to me. "Do you want to respond?" I asked. "No," he said simply. "She's right that she can't be forgiven. Not by me anyway." "That's very mature," I mused. "I learned it from you." He smiled. Small but genuine. "You didn't forgive her either." "No, I didn't. Because some things are too big to forgive." "Yes." He nodded, satisfied with his conclusion, and went back to his comic books. I kept the letter in my desk drawer. Some nights I'd take it out and reread it, looking for something between the lines. Genuine remorse, maybe, or just another manipulation. I could never quite decide. But it didn't matter. The damage was permanent. The family would never recover its previous shape. Natalie's life had fundamentally changed. Her reputation shattered. Her marriage ended. Her perfect facade destroyed. And Jordan knew with absolute certainty that I would defend him against anyone, even family, especially family. 6 months later, Jordan asked me a question while we were making Sunday breakfast together. Do you regret it? Posting that photo? I flipped a pancake, watching it brown. Sometimes I regret how much it hurt other people. Preston didn't deserve to find out that way. Their kids didn't need to see their family explode publicly. But I met his gaze. But I don't regret defending you. I don't regret making sure everyone knew the truth about someone who pretended to love you while thinking you shouldn't exist. He nodded, pouring more batter into the pan. Good, because I'm glad you did it. Yeah. She needed everyone to know who she really was. Otherwise, she'd keep pretending, and I'd keep thinking she cared about me, and eventually she'd say something even worse. That's very wise, Bug. I'm 13 now, practically an adult. He grinned, that crooked smile that lit up his whole face. Plus, I learned from the best. We finished breakfast together, the kitchen filled with the smell of butter and maple syrup, the winter sun streaming through the windows. Outside, the world continued spinning. Family drama slowly fading into background noise. But inside my kitchen, everything was exactly as it should be. My son, happy and loved and absolutely certain of his worth. And me, his mother, who'd burned down half the family tree to make sure he knew it. No regrets. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and protecting someone you love? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.
Le but était de dire le maximum de rêves. Sauf qu'en face, il y a